on a parrot. I said, what did you see? He goes, I saw the same thing you saw. I saw things coming to a stop, zigzagging, going so fast. If it was a human in it, it would be like they would be splattered inside the spaceship. And he said it looked like there was battles going on out there. And he said,
yep, that's exactly what it looks like.
And he says, we're not seeing any of this with our telescopes at all. And the next thing I know, it wasn't just him. Almost every member of the observatory, members of it, came in and ordered it, and they were all into it. And I think it even hit the Tacoma News Tribune at one point about what was going on. But, then it kind of got brushed away. There's things going on. Do you remember back in the 80s, Gary, when the Mexican Air Force was on a maneuver, and they were using infrared equipment, and they captured that UFO flagging one of their jets, and they got the whole thing. It was on YouTube. This was back in the 80s, but they were using infrared at that time. Their pilots were doing those special warfare maneuvers using infrared goggles that had been supplied by the U.S. And they had one on the camera lens at the time, and it was supposed to be a mock, jet-to-jet battle. Well, all of a sudden, using infrared on the camera, here comes this UFO. You remember when that happened? I vaguely do remember, yes, because it did make news. But as fast as it made news, all of a sudden, the dis news, to come out and condemn it came out really fast. But that's what happens. For every little bit of information you get positive, there's going to be negative. And that has been going on for years. I tell you, something is going on, and people don't want to believe it. Now, I also talked to one of the professors at University of Washington last week, and I'm trying to get him to come on my show. He teaches political science. And he's not the only one. There's a whole bunch of, professors across the country that teaches political science saying, well, what if with Trump? Now, I did vote for Trump, and that's all I'm going to say. But what happens if he loses the election or it's a close call? Is he going to walk out of the White House? Or if they start the impeachment, which would damage him for a re-election, is he going to walk out of the White House? And I asked him, I said, I gave him this whole UFO type of thing, which he kind of, listened to me. And he goes, it does make sense. He could declare a national emergency, what do you call it? They basically, the government.
Martial law.
Yeah, martial law. And that would suspend the elections.
That would suspend habeas corpus. That would suspend the Bill of Rights. That would suspend the Constitution.
Oh, yeah. And he has the authority, he could do it. Now, they could use the pretext that maybe there's something going on that they have been scared to tell the American public. But then,
all in the name of a national emergency.
Yeah.
Well, look at the what was the name of that? It came after the Patriot Act, but it basically, under the auspices of a national emergency, if you did or said something that they declared was not in the best interests of the nation, and you are basically a security risk, the National Defense Authorization Act, it was signed into law at the stroke of midnight in 2012. They can come into your house, they can seize you, they can seize any documents that they want to, and all they have to do is say, in the name of national security, we can do this because we think you're a bad guy. And they don't even have to really express what that means, and they can deny you access to a lawyer, they can deny you all habeas corpus, and they can keep you for as long as they want.
Oh, yeah. And that's the scary part, and that can happen. And people don't realize that. And it just makes me wonder even why a law would pass to do that.
Well, let's just say hypothetically that there were powers and principalities in high places that basically wanted to run the entire show globally. Now, what would you do to basically make sure that occurred. What you do is you do what's commonly referred to as a false flag. You take all of these back-engineered craft that you have, and you basically have people that you have genetically manipulated, and you paid their families exorbitant amounts of money so that they can pilot these craft, and you basically have them come to every major city around the globe, and you basically scare the hell out of everybody. And what do the powers that be do? Hypothetically, of course, why, we can fix this whole thing. And then they come up with some plan, even though they were the ones that basically created the problem to begin with. They come up with this plan. The plan just magically happens to work. And lo and behold, your habeas corpus, your Bill of Rights, your Constitution are gone. And what have you just done? You've basically traded your freedoms for a false sense of security. Only what you find out is since they control the entire thing, they can do anything that they want with you. And you no longer have any freedom of choice. Well, not that would happen, but...
Well, look at this. I've had a person, or two different people on my show that worked. One was a retired CIA agent. One worked for the Department of the DOD for quite a few years, I think like 13 years. They told me such scary things that makes me just, cringe. Like your smart TV, if you're on one of the lists where you're being watched.
They can listen and watch everything you're doing.
Yeah, you could be in your front room talking to your wife or having sex on the couch, right? And they're watching you. One of the things he thought was interesting, because he thought he was being watched because the way he left the department, he didn't leave on the best of terms. And one day he was sitting with his wife in the front room. There was a special bike he wanted. It was a special made beach bike. Nobody carried it, right, in the local area. And lo and behold, the next morning he's on his cell phone and it pops up, that bike, where he could find it. This, all of a sudden, there it is. Isn't that kind of strange? And then he was telling me that some of these government agencies has devices, like if they want to get rid of somebody, they can park across the street from your house, point a device at you, hit the button, and you keel over dead with a heart attack.
I was at a facility, and this was during my security days, and they were testing weapons, and I could hear these noises from inside this building, and that's all I was told is that they were, quote, testing weapons. And the next thing I knew, there was a vibration that hit my head. I thought that my head was exploding. It was coming apart. I literally hit the floor. I was on all floors when my relief showed up. And I said, "What are you doing on the floor?" I said, "Didn't you hear that? Didn't that affect you?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "There was a vibration that just took me and it literally knocked me to the floor. It was like a sonic scramble your brain type thing happened." And he had just driven up, and then it subsided. It probably lasted 2 seconds, but it literally took me to the floor. And all I can say is that anyone that doesn't think that they have things like that, that's why, when you and I talked about Area 51, the one thing I knew, and I didn't say anything about it on your program, is that those people would not get to first base, and they wouldn't even have to fire a shot because they have ultrasonic weapons and all sorts of other goodies that they can stop you dead in your tracks and you won't know what hit you.
Now, is this stuff going to, disable you, or can it go as far as kill you?
It'll totally disable you. It'll be on all fours.
Yeah. It's scary. I mean, and the same person was telling me, too, that, that how they monitor people's phone calls, if you say certain words, emails, if you say certain things in an email, you get all of a sudden their computers, and he named where a couple of these branches are in the country. It's scary. We're giving up people are funny. They don't realize what's going on. Long as they get money and they get their paycheck, they seem to be happy. They're naive what's actually happening out there, and that's the scary part.
Well, it's not only scary, but it's sad, Gary, because I know that there are a lot of people that are struggling. They're living a hand-to-mouth existence, and I understand that, but they need to be aware. They need to expand their consciousness, and they need to be aware of all those realities that are surrounding them, because we live in an extremely complex cosmic situation. You have people that are terrestrial that are have their agendas. You have people that are extraterrestrial that are manipulating those people, like certain senators, congressmen, etc., to do their bidding. And if people think that that's not true, they better think again. Because Linda Moulton Howe, I guess, isn't she coming on your program in October?
She was going to. Now it is scheduled into November.
Okay. You might ask her when she comes on your program about the intelligences, plural, that are responsible for manipulating people and things on this planet, because she has done a great deal of research on that. That's one of the reasons she is a heroine of mine, is because she does some extensive research on that. And she was, when I sent her disclosure, she sent me an email back, and she said, there are intelligences out there that are malevolent. There are intelligences that are neutral. There are intelligences that are benevolent. But the problem, and I heard her speak about this one time, is that you've got two intelligences that are malevolent, one that's neutral and one that's benevolent. Now, when you've got that kind of a mix, and it's basically 2 to 1, people like you and I are going to feel the results of that, and you can see it happening around you.
Yeah, well, I again, people are funny. They don't digest what's going on. Just like, changing it just a little bit about the tariffs. I've been talking my head off a long time ago about it. People told me I didn't know what I was talking about. I said it's going to cause job losses. It's going to cause our economy to major slip. People told me I didn't know what I was talking about, and they said other things. Well, it's happening. Our economy is not as robust as it was 6 months ago. It is slipping. No. I think after the elections, pardon the term, it's going to hit the fan, and people are going to start losing jobs. It's going to get scary out there. The interest rates right now, the feds are dumping a lot of, $75 billion a day, kind of trying to keep our economy going till election time. It's scary what's going on, and these people out there just don't digest it. And what's going to happen after the election? All the shit's going to hit the fan, because
Gary, they don't digest it because in my opinion, based on the people that I've talked to, they don't want to digest it. There are a lot of people that listen to your show because you have a cross section of people that talk about different realities, different things that are going on, and they find that fascinating, and they want to expand their horizons. They want to understand what's going on. You have other people out there that it's just like your Bigfoot encounter. When you have, I've had two types of people that have made comments about Bigfoot, and they've said, well, either it doesn't exist and there's no empirical evidence, which isn't true, there is, and then you've had the other kind that just like those hippie flower children that says, oh, they're all about peace and love and they're benevolent. You tell that to that one that threw that 50-pound rock at the side of your car.
Yeah, and they give off orbs. It's funny, like Tom Roman, not Tom Roman, Ed Romans out of Canada is like one of the top folk singers of Canada. And he was on my show because he heard my thing about Bigfoot. He wanted to, voice his opinion. He saw pretty much in Canada, up in British Columbia, the same thing I saw up in the Canadian Rockies. He saw a Bigfoot. He saw how it ran. It ran the same way the creature I saw ran. And you know what? I tell people this. If you go out hunting for Bigfoot, you're never going to find one, or the odds are almost nothing. I was out with a friend of mine, and we were looking just to photograph an old Japanese internment camp. We ran into something, and it didn't like didn't like us. And I do have a gut feeling if we would have not ran as fast as we could and got out of there, we would have never got out of there. Hey, it's commercial time again, the last one. And then, Tom, you want to hang around the last half an hour?